Holy and gracious God, we seek your Spirit now and your presence. We seek your love. Move among us. Help us to hear you, to sense you, and to hear your word this day. We pray in your Son's name. Amen. This may be the strangest Palm Sunday in my entire ministry. It's normally a day of great celebration and fun. It signals the beginning of the end of Lent and the beginning of Holy Week. Well, it's not a day that is dark side. After all, the cross is just around the corner. It's often a morning full of fun. Children's parades, palms waving, and some really, truly great hymns. Palm Sunday is one of the best days of the church year, and well worth celebrating. But this year is, well, a bit different. All of you are at home. There are no parades of children, although mine do keep finding ways to sneak into the frame during these church services. And a day that is usually a celebration is, at best, more subdued than usual. Make no mistake, it is still a signal of Easter approaching. We are still waving our branches, even if they are more impromptu than usual. We will still celebrate, but the day is different. And yet the story still speaks. The familiar, intriguing story still echoes in our hearts and our minds. The story about Jesus that each and every year is a little bit different, that always gives us a new wrinkle to chew on, still comes and invites us to explore what it means this year. And this morning, I am drawn to three different but complementary ideas. One, that Jerusalem is unsettled, and it is because of Jesus. Two, that this feeling of unsettledness was not universal. And three, that Jesus offers us grace in the midst of it. The first wrinkle, the first idea is both impossible to deny and yet one we often overlook. Jerusalem is unsettled by this day. The word in the gospel is in turmoil. The people of the city do not know fully what to make of this Jesus. Do not know what to make of this ragtag bunch of followers who are coming with him. The city of Jerusalem did not know what to make of this one who would be known as the Messiah. It's not the first time in Matthew's gospel either. Remember in Matthew 2, when the Magi came seeking the one born king of the Jews, Herod is troubled and all Jerusalem with him. Jesus is used to making the residents of the holy city a little uncomfortable. He's an old hat at unsettling things that frankly could use a little unsettling. And unlike in Matthew 2, which is not really his fault as a baby or a small child, here, Jesus knows exactly what he's doing. He has a point to make, and the Palm Sunday parade is how he makes it. I say parade, but really it's more of a protest march. Jesus enters into town at the same time when Pontius Pilate is also marching into town. Well, Pilate comes in with thousands upon thousands of troops, with chariots and grand steeds and all the glory of the empire. Jesus enters with the ragtag group of fishermen, tax collectors, and other hangers-on, or riding a lowly donkey. Well, Pilate will go straight to his seat in Jerusalem, the place of his power. Jesus will go to the temple, to the household of God, and there he will do a little more unsettling, turning over tables, stopping sales, and protesting the way the temple leadership are failing to follow God, are failing in their role as shepherds of the sheep, the people of Israel. Jerusalem is unsettled, all right. And Jesus has designed his entrance just to make it so. But this is not bad news for everyone. The crowds surrounding him may be a bit ragtag, but they were still a crowd. Some people of Jerusalem saw this day as unsettling, but others saw it as God's good news come to earth. For them, it truly was a party. People laid down cloaks and waved branches. They sang praises to God. They cried, Hosanna. which means save us. Save us, O Holy One. Save us, O One who comes in the name of our God. Save us, save us. Hosanna. These people were not unsettled by Jesus' entrance to Jerusalem, or even the actions in the temple. After all, the children were crying out even after the temple incident, save us, Hosanna. Some were unsettled by Palm Sunday, maybe even enough to feel like it was all of Jerusalem. The chief priests and the temple authorities were among them, but not all. Others saw a hope that God's salvation was at hand, that in the coming of Jesus, change might occur, the society might become better, that the Messiah might bring about a new way of being, a new way of following God. For them, the day may have been unsettling, but the status quo was worse. And so they celebrated, even as others worried. I suspect which of these two poles we mostly lie on today. We are feeling massively unsettled, even on this rather odd Palm Sunday. We are striving to find any sense of normalcy, and I imagine might be having a hard time seeing good coming out of this moment of crisis and unsettling. Me too. Yet I cannot quite ignore the reality that sometimes, and I don't believe this is one of those times, let me be clear, but sometimes what feels like an unsettling day is actually the work of God. Think about the civil rights movement, or the ACT UP movement against AIDS in the 80s and the 90s. Those were moments where life could feel unsettled. Though I was not alive for the first and merely a child for the second, I have to imagine that those who were a part of those movements did not always make people around them feel comfortable. In fact, I can read history. And they were quite unpopular. Sitting at lunch counters, doing bus boycotts, marching across the Selma Bridge, protesting in the 80s in New York City and Washington, D.C., even the AIDS quilt on the mall. These were not tools to increase your popularity. They made people feel unsettled. But they were the tools for justice. They were the tools by which God and God's people made the world a better place. Because not all unsettling is bad. And we ought to keep watch of the moments where feeling unsettled means God is speaking to us to do something new. Now, is that today? Is that this moment of unsettlement? Maybe, maybe not. I do not believe that God sent this moment upon us to shake things up. I do not believe God has a plan for all the death and sorrow we are seeing right now, that God has caused it. Yet even here, I can imagine God taking it and bringing good. If in these moments of social isolation, we learn to care more deeply for each other and not take one another for granted, if we become closer to our families and do more together and take moments to pause and have Sabbath, if we remember and learn to recognize those who make our lives and lifestyles possible, those who work in our medical fields, those who fill our shopping carts or drive our trucks, those who care for children, those who care for our seniors, those who, like people of Hillrom, make our medical supplies. If we come away with better appreciation for them and for each other, with better understandings of how we are together as a people, then perhaps some sliver of good news will come even out of this tragedy. Because God takes all sorts of things that unsettle us and uses them for the sake of the world. And perhaps that's the good news you needed to hear this morning. Here's one more. In the midst of all this unsettledness, in the midst of all that new and renewed hope, Jesus was there, offering grace and love and presence, just as he always is. To those who saw in him a new hope, he talked about the stones themselves shouting out. To the children singing praises in the temple, he compared them to the words of the psalmist, that they were the mouths of babes from whom God could bring forth praise. Even the temple leaders, who would offer words of hope and salvation as he taught the temple over the next few days. Now, many of them were too focused on their own unsettledness to hear it, but the words of grace were there. The words of love and presence were there. And some were able to hear. A lawyer whose understanding of the first and second greatest commandments meant he was not far from the kingdom. And Joseph of Arimathea, member of the council, who was moved to give Jesus a new tomb. And the excitement of Palm Sunday, and its moments where life felt unsettled, Jesus was there, offering grace. It's what he did. It's what he does. Friends, hear this good news. The one who is present in the midst of it all on Palm Sunday is still present with us today. That's why we will celebrate this day, despite it being the strangest Palm Sunday ever. We don't celebrate a story or a few branches on the road, but we celebrate the coming of Jesus into Jerusalem, into Holy Week, and into our lives. We celebrate the one who is always with us, bringing words of hope and challenge, of love and change. We celebrate the one who calls us to fight injustice and to find those spaces that we need to feel unsettled, allow them to change us. But the one who always invites us back, to be loved, to receive grace and care, to find peace and presence in the mercy of God, to come in our unsettled hearts and be surrounded by the grace of God. In our gathered worship, in our community, and at the table, we celebrate the one who invites us time and time again to be renewed, including through bread and cup. The community and prayers and praises, and who then goes with us back into a world that can be unsettled, but a world that needs the grace that God gives, the grace that we can share. In these unsettled times, and all the times to come, let's rely upon that grace, because we can rely upon that grace. Thanks be to God. Amen.